Hello everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial, and today we are painting Awlrach the Drowner. Here he is, the new Nighthaunt character. He is awesome, he looks fantastic. I'm really excited to do this as, well, there's going to be a lot of contrasting going on, which is always my favourite thing to do in the entire world. So without any further ado, we're going to jump in and start painting him. He has been primed in grey Seer because we want a nice cold finish, and well, the place we're going to start is on the ghosts at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically paint our way up and then do the base as the final thing. That seems to me, at least in my head, the easiest way of doing this, especially when you've got him fully assembled like I have. You could build it in sub-assemblies, and this is one of those miniatures where you probably should. I just don't, because I don't prefer to do it that way. But sub-assemblies wise, you could leave the oar off and the ship itself. But without all that out of the way, now what we're going to do, as I said, is we're going to start on those ghosts. Now, as you can see, I've got a piece of palette paper here, and I've got 3 paints open. I've got Space Wolves Grey, I've got Plaguebearer Flesh, and I've got Contrast Medium here. And that's because we're going to be using all 3 of these, but we're going to be using them slightly different, and that's why we've got the palette paper here, just to demonstrate what we're going to be doing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a roughly 4 parts contrast medium. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4 parts contrast medium. And we're going to take 1 part Space Wolves Grey. I'm just going to pop it there next to it, and then we're going to mix it in just like that. Then what we're going to do is we're also going to make roughly 4 parts contrast medium. 1, 2, 3, and 4. To 1 part Plaguebearer Flesh. I'm just going to mix that right in, just like that. There we go, perfect. So now we've got our 2 mixes. What we're going to do is we're going to start applying this to the model. So we're going to take our Space Wolves Grey mix up first, and what we want to do here is basically let's start on the big ghost, why not? We want to basically get it up to around about halfway, and then we're going to start moving in with some contrast medium and then some Plaguebearer Flesh as well, because we're not done with the contrast medium. No. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start covering this thinned down Space Wolves Grey all over. Like so. Making sure we've definitely got it. And come up to around about there. And on this bottom part, come up to around about there, like that. Then what we're going to do is wash the brush. We're then going to grab some contrast medium straight from the pot. We're going to apply this like this to these sections, like that. And then we're going to grab our Plaguebearer Flesh mix. And we're going to add it just like that. like so. Now if you want to, you can just go back in and grab a little bit more contrast medium just to smooth out any of those areas where you might have a little bit too much of a colour build-up. This is really kind of up to you. This is your choice at this point. Like that. There we go. I think I'm reasonably happy with that. Like so. And now, of course, what we're going to do is we're just going to do it again, but on the inside and on our remaining ghosts. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Wash the brush. We grab a healthy dollop of Space Wolves Grey. Get that in there. And I'm going to make that again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, no, we've done that. We just need one nice big healthy dollop of Plaguebearer Flesh in there. Like so. So as I said, once again, we're just going to do the inside of the Drowner. This is going to be slightly trickier to film because, you know, we haven't built it in sub-assemblies. So this is kind of, this part's all about, really about brush control and things like that. Just making sure you've got a nice, good coverage of this all over your ghosts. And the trick here is to just keep rotating the model around, making sure you haven't missed bits. Like that. Gonna wash that brush, grab that contrast medium, wash the brush, and then we're going in with the Plaguebearer Flesh once more. We're going to do this over all of our ghostly trails, so this is include the part underneath the boat. As well as the other ghost on the opposite side. So with that done, it's going to take a little while to dry because there is a lot of wet paint on there right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on and we're going to paint in all of the wood details. Now, these are going to include the oar and the boat, funnily enough. And the colour we're going to be making is a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Wyldwood and Black Templar. And we're just going to be simply coating this all over our wood. If you need help on where to place this, do just check out the product photography on gamesworkshop.com. For now, it is just a matter of getting this mix all over. So with that done, he's looking, well, he's looking pretty good already. But what we're going to do now is, whilst we're waiting for that to dry, is we're going to work on the dark, flowy, night-haunty bits of his ghostly form, or cape, for lack of a better word. Now, the first colour we're going to make is a roughly 2 parts contrast medium to 1 part warp lightning. And what we want to do is basically just want to get this all over the bit that's going to eventually end up as a really dark sort of turquoise. Now, it might look a bit weird at first, but don't worry. Once we've done all of our clever contrast magic, it'll look fantastic. So with that done, as you can see, the warp lightning has made his cloak violently green. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the darkening down aspect, and the first colour we're going to be doing for that part is roughly 2 parts contrast medium to 1 part Terradon Turquoise. And what we want to do is we want to start up here, bring it out, and then kind of blend it out towards the end. So we're going to start just here, and we're just going to bring it all the way down, just like this. Now, it doesn't do the kind of blending out thing all over. It only does it on the really kind of spooky trails. So you can go all the way down on the vast majority of it. It's only when we start getting to around about here, what we want to do is we want to kind of cover that entire section there. Then we want to bring it out to around about halfway along that, like that. We then wash the brush, and then using a clean brush, we're then just going to move it over the green, so it kind of smooths out the transition, but it also just kind of moves some of that Terradon Turquoise into this area around here. You just want to watch out for dark pools here, because we want this to be a nice and smooth application. And then we just want to do this across all of this section. So I'm just going to come in here now. Again, there's quite a lot of brush gymnastics going on here. It's similarly on the inside of the cloak there. I'm going to take it up to around about there, and then just smooth it out once again. Just like that. So with that done, just whilst we're waiting for it to dry, what we're going to do, and it is pertinent to what we're going to do next, well, in a couple of steps time, but what we're going to do is we're going to take some Gore-Grunta Fur. I'm going to use this to paint in his kind of leather shawl type area. Now again, it is going to look very bright and vibrant, but don't worry, seriously. I know I'm saying that a lot, but please don't worry. Stop worrying. It's going to be fine. So we're just going to get this all over. just like this. So with that done, it is now drying. So what we're going to do is we're going to now, with this now being dry, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Terradon Turquoise on its own. I'm going to colour this over the top of our ghostly areas. Now similarly, to what we did in the previous bit with the shawl, we're not going to go all the way along. We're just going to come down to around about there. Move reasonably quickly here because there's no medium involved. And then we're just going to smooth it out just a little bit like that with a clean brush. I'm just going to go over the rest of it. And so with that now done, that shawl is looking pretty good. Except now, as I mentioned before, the reason why we did that kind of leathery part at the top is because we're now going to do a shade over all of it, excluding this kind of bit at the back end here, because that's exactly where we want it to be now. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a roughly 3 parts contrast medium to 1 part black Templar mix. And this is now going to go over the top of the leather, over the top of the shawl, well, the ghostly bit here, like so. And again, once we get to around about there, we're going to wash the brush. Then we're just going to smooth out that transition a little bit, like that. And otherwise, we're just going to get it all over. There you go. I told you not to worry. Doesn't that look awesome? So, with all of that now done, well, for now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the rest of the base coats because it's wet and we're just going to leave it to dry now for a little while. So the next place that we're going to work on is the bones. And we've got quite a lot of those. We've got all of this kind of area going around. We've got the spinal column going in and around here. And we've got the kind of right in there, you can see some bones. We've got some bones here. We've got bones under there. But there's a lot of bones. Okay, a lot of bones. So in order to do these bones, the 2 colors we're going to be using are Skeleton Horde and Wyldwood. And the reason we're using the Wyldwood is because there's a little bit of blending on some of these bones, particularly on this kind of part of the rib cage, just here and here. But otherwise, it's the same Skeleton Horde all over. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab that Skeleton Horde. I'm just going to start here with this bit. I'm just going to put this Skeleton Horde all over like that. And then what we do is we wash the brush, grab a little bit of Wyldwood, and then we're just going to add it like that. We can grab a little bit more Skeleton Horde and just kind of apply that there, like that, just to kind of smooth out that transition just a little bit. But otherwise, I'm just going to mop up that little bit just there. It's a little too much for my liking. Otherwise, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Skeleton Horde and we're going to paint this all over the rest of our bony bits, like that. So with that done, what we're now going to do is going to take some Militarum Green. I'm going to use this on the vine, going all the way around the ore. Like so. You just want to make sure that you go over on the opposite side as well. Just to make sure you get all of it. Like that. And we're also going to use this Militarum Green on his hair and his beard. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to make a roughly 4 parts contrast medium to 3 parts Guilliman Flesh to 1 part Krieg Camo mix. And we're going to paint this all over his skull and his skin. And so with that now done, what we do is we take some Shyish Purple. I'm going to paint this over the little roses. On the ore. So with that now done, Awlrach the Drowner is looking pretty good. He's nearly there with the base coats, to be honest. The last contrast paint, for a little while at least until we do some shading, is going to be up here on the smoke trail coming out of that lantern. Now, when I say last contrast paint, we have actually got 3. Plaguebearer Flesh, Warp Lightning and Black Templar. I'm going to be using all 3 of them at the same time to once again do a lot of blending, because that's a thing that you have to do a lot of on Nighthaunt. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some Plaguebearer Flesh and we're going to apply this over about 1/3 of our smoke. Just like that. Then what we do is we wash the brush, grab some Warp Lightning, and then we add that all the way towards the end, like so. Then we wash the brush once more, grab some Black Templar, and put that over the end, like that. Then, using some Plaguebearer Flesh, we use that to basically smooth out all of our transitions. And then we can also use a clean brush just to mop up some of that excess. We don't want some really dark patches appearing where we don't want them. Actually, use a tiny little bit more Warp Lightning just in here. a tiny little bit more Black Templar. And just do this until you're happy with how it looks, really, like that. And of course you want to make sure that you do this on the other side as well. So with that smoke now done on both sides, what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour, and this is the first of our metallics, and we're going to be using this across all of our gold details. So we've got the blade of the prow, I believe that's what you call it. Boat fans, do tell me. Like that. We've got the little coins in each of their hands. So I would recommend using a slightly smaller brush than this medium layer brush for that. Like so. We've got various other little ornamental bits that are all around him as well. So we've got this bit here. Like that. We've got the little bits like that around here. We've got this kind of railing stuff in here. Basically, the best thing to do is, of course, to have the box art in front of you, or the product photography from Games Workshop, so you can figure out where to place this gold. But as I said, really don't forget to paint the little coins in their hands. As you can see, there's one just here. I know I said use a slightly smaller brush, but there you go. Coin like that. There's one in that one's hand as well, and there's one in that one's hand as well. There is all the coins as well in here in this chest, so don't forget to do those as well. Ill-gotten gains, old Awlrach. And so with all of those gold details applied, as you can see, all the way around, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Leadbelcher, and this is going to be pretty much everywhere that we haven't already painted. So it's going to be areas like this banding just here. It's going to be all the chains. It's going to be the little sort of cage around Awlrach's body. Everywhere that pretty much hasn't got paint on it already, excluding, you know, the gravestones and things like that. Those aren't going to be silver, but the rest of it, however, you just want to carry on. So with that done, all of our base coats are now on Awlrach the Drowner. So what it is now time to do is to add some shades. And we're going to be adding 2 shades at the same time for all of the metallics. And the 2 shades we're going to be using are Basilicanum Grey and Fyreslayer Flesh. So what we're going to do is we're going to, for all of the gold details, we're going to primarily use Fyreslayer Flesh, but then we're going to add in a little bit of Basilicanum Grey, whereas for all of the silver details, we're going to do this the other way around. So for example, down here on the prow, what we're going to do is we're going to add that Fyreslayer Flesh in there like that. Then we're going to wash the brush and grab a tiny bit of Basilicanum Grey, and we're just going to add it in here and there, just add a little bit of a weathering effect like that. I'm just going to very quickly finish this prow off so that we don't get any dark transitions. Like that. Grab a tiny bit of that Basilicanum Grey. I'm just going to add it in around there like that. Actually just going to add a little bit more of it into that side like that. Perfect. Whereas on the silver details, what we're going to do is we're going to take Basilicanum Grey first. I'm going to add this over the top. Like that. I'm just going to do the other side of that chain as well. Like so. And then we wash the brush, grab a teeny bit of Fyreslayer Flesh, and then we're just going to add that in at the same time, like that, just to create that kind of rusted effect on the silver that we're after. Just like that. So you just want to go over all of the metallics like this, and then once that's done, we'll come back. So with that done, Awlrach the Drowner is now at what I would call a Warhipster battle ready. He looks pretty awesome, and I'm very, very pleased with him so far. However, it is now time to take him to the next level, and of course we're going to do that by adding some highlights. Now, the one we're going to start with is Ulthuan Grey. We've got some of this thinned down a little bit more than we normally would on a palette. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going right back to the beginning. We're going to be adding these highlights along all of our Space Wolves Grey areas. Just like this. Now this is going to take a little while. But once it's done, we'll come back. So with that done, it's looking pretty good. But what we're going to do very quickly is we're going to take a little bit of Drakenhof Nightshade, and in the deepest recesses, we're just going to add a little bit of blue in there, just like that. Not very much at all. You just want to be very careful here as you do this. Just like that. We're just basically just kind of tinting that area because we've already highlighted up. So with that done, our blue areas are finished on the spectral bits. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some Deepkin Flesh. I'm going to do effectively the same type of deal over the top of our greenish areas. Just like this. Now what we can also do with the Deepkin Flesh is we can also highlight his flesh . Like so. We can also highlight the tips . of his spectral cloaky area. But just the tips. We just want to just keep it to this. Only going up about as far as there. Like that. And then additionally, the last place to highlight with this is going to be the Plaguebearer Fleshy areas of our smoke trails. At the top there, like that. So you just want to go around like this, and then once that's done, we'll come back. So with that Deepkin Flesh highlight applied to all of those areas, as you can see, he's already taken a massive leap forward. However, just like we did on the darker areas down here with the Drakenhof Nightshade, what we're going to do is we're going to take a tiny amount of Coelia Greenshade, and we're going to use this in the darkest parts of our Deepkin Fleshy areas. But not all of them, we just want to add a little hint of this. As you can see, just using tiny amounts of Coelia Greenshade to just add a little bit, a little spectral summon in there, just to kind of tie it in with the dark areas. Even if you just do this in and around the hair, that would be sufficient. It's just a little bit of a hint of this colour going in. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Screaming Skull. I'm going to use this to highlight all of our bones. So with that Screaming Skull applied to all of those bones, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Russ Grey. I'm going to use this to highlight his ghostly form. Just like this, picking out all of the edges, coming up to where we've done our Deepkin Flesh areas. So with that Russ Grey applied, like that, what we're then going to do is, weirdly, I'm going to take some Sybarite Green, but trust me, it works. I'm going to take some Sybarite Green and we're going to add this to the sharpest points on our Russ Grey highlights. Just like that. Again, we're just trying to capture a real spooky image. Just like that. So with that done, his spooky ghostly robe is now all finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to all of the wood and also his leather shawl. And the colour we're going to be using to highlight both of these sections is Karak Stone. And what we're going to be doing on the wood, for example, is we're just going to be picking out the kind of top edges here and there. I'm not going to be picking out too much because we've got one last kind of reshading and colouring thing to do to the wood. So you'll be happy to hear you won't have to do tons and tons of little edge highlights on the ship. Of course, you can do a little bit more of that if you want to. Similarly on the oar, just want to pick out a couple of little areas on the oar. So for example, just there, just here, like that. And then on the actual oar itself down here, or at least the paddle section, we're going to just pick out the little holes. And the edges. Kind of give it a little bit of texture. Like that sort of thing. And then up here on the sail pole, I guess you'd call it a spectral mast rather than a sail pole. Oh, dearie me. And similarly on the leather, we're just going to pick out all the edges. So with that Karak Stone added, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Aethermatic Blue and just around the tops of the wood on the boat, we're just going to add a little bit of that in there just to make it look a little bit spooky. That's a little too much just there. Just like this, very subtle. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to work on the metallics, and the colour we're going to be using first is Skullcrusher Brass, and we're basically going to be using this to relayer some of our gold sections because they are mysteriously nice and bright in places. So for example, just here along the prow spar, whatever we're calling that, we're just going to go along there like that, and then we're also just going to paint over the detailing just there like that, make it nice and bright. Similarly, over this kind of decorative awning. Same up here. Just in there like that. And so with that done, we're then going to take some thin down iron hand steel. I'm going to use this to just highlight all of our silver. So we're just going to pick out all the edges. Just like this. So with that done, our metallics are all finished. Don't they look fantastic? We don't want them to have like really super sharp edges, you see, that's the thing. And it's because, you know, they're supposed to be quite old and dead. So that's why we just do that little relayering and a little bit of highlighting on the gold. And the silver just has that one highlight. It looks fantastic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to very quickly take some Slaanesh Grey. I'm going to use this to add a couple of little highlights to each of our purple flowers. Just like that. And then with that done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Krieg Khaki. We're going to use this to highlight the tips of the hair and the beard. Like so. And we're also going to use this to add a little spot highlight to the thorns. Just to give that, or just a little bit more of a green visual interest. And so, just like that, Awlrach the Drowner is finished. Look at him. Doesn't he look fantastic? Right, all that's left to do is the base, and it's quite simple really. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a roughly 1-to-1 mix of contrast medium and Basilicanum Grey, and we're just going to be applying that to all of our stone and all of our gravestones, just like this. That contrast medium is in there just to make sure that our Basilicanum Grey behaves itself. It also gives us just that slightly paler tone of grey that we're getting just here, as you can see. And so with that done, we're then going to take some Wyldwood. I'm going to use this to paint in all of the soil. And so with that done, all that's left to do is to finish off the rest of the base. So I'm going to be using some Sterling Battlemire, followed by a dry brush of Tyrant Skull And then I'm going to be adding some tufts from Gamer's Grass, as well as some purple flowers, because they look awesome. And finish off the rim in the colour of my choosing, which in this case will be Mechanicus Standard Grey. I'm not going to show this entire process because, well, we've done it so many times before, and of course, basing is entirely up to you. But yeah, I will see you all very shortly in the next bit for the roundup. The moment I saw this model alongside my partner Alice, we both knew that we absolutely had to have it. One, because it's a cool model to paint, and two, because of her budding Nighthaunt army. So I was very, very pleased when she purchased it and allowed me to do this for her. So much fun to put this guy together. Didn't take very long, to be honest, about 8 hours, give or take, a couple of minutes, and it just looks so effective, and I can really see how this guy could be a centerpiece for a very ghost heavy army. Very, very exciting and very, very cool addition to the Nighthaunt. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you want to support me further like these legends and bosses on the screen before you, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/warhipster or head to ko-fi.com/warhipster. Alternatively, you can now become a YouTube channel member by heading to the channel page and clicking on the join button just here, exactly like these awesome folks have done. And if you just want to shoot me a little thanks just because you really love this video, you can click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.